Thank you very much, Professor Blamri and Professor Lashmi, for the inspiring presentation. I was enjoying, I was learning. I think the same thing with you guys, right? Great. فشكرا جزيلا. We cannot wait for كمال Professor كمال يستومي وكذلك البروفيسور نوار ثابت this afternoon. ماذا بنا تريحوا حتى الله and you ask questions, right? So thank you very much. The question tag is for Professor Lashmi, because just a second. So I have been in Waterloo. So I spent time in Waterloo doing my second postdoc, which is the experience of research in compiler design. And when I went there, they told me this is the Silicon Valley of Canada, which is Waterloo. Waterloo, it's a city in Toronto, state of Ontario. It's a city near of Kitchener. So they said the Waterloo is the bathroom and Kitchener is the kitchen. And it's Silicon Valley تاع Canada. So my question is about DMZ, okay? Just a second. So DMZ, which is the world leading incubator for tech startups, which helps startups to build a great business by connecting them with their customers. And we saw the map of the DMZ. So my question, how you select the presence of DMZ global engagement? So why Niagara Falls City and not Waterloo, as Waterloo is the Silicon Valley of Canada? I want to understand what's the criteria, why, and where is Algeria in DMZ global map? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Morad, for your excellent question. The University of Waterloo is actually known for innovation and entrepreneurship. It's a university that has been established from the beginning around the importance of experiential learning opportunities, especially for engineering students. And they have actually introduced the co-op programs in engineering before any other university in Canada. And of course, we have many examples. You worked with RIM. A lot of those companies were born in the in Waterloo region. If Waterloo, for those who are not familiar, is a city that is about an hour and a half from Toronto, driving. And actually, the Toronto-Waterloo corridor, we call it the corridor of innovation. If you look at yesterday, Murad, you talked, I think Murad mentioned about in the US, the big cities. Now in terms of IT technology and innovation entrepreneurship, the city of Toronto or the region is considered in terms of the importance of the ecosystem, third big contributors in North America. So we're very proud to be part of that corridor. We have a presence in downtown Toronto, but as I said, Toronto is on the other end of the corridor. And one of the things that we are doing in enhancing that corridor of innovation, I mentioned the example of the city of Brampton. City of Brampton actually is mid-distance between Toronto and Waterloo. So we are actually reinforcing that corridor. To your question, why DMZ doesn't have a presence in Waterloo, simply because the University of Waterloo has an incubator. They have their own incubator there. And the idea for us actually is to complement the system and not to compete. We do a collaboration with them. As I mentioned, in the city of Toronto, we have accelerators. We have one called 111 in Toronto, where companies from DMZ can, when they can graduate, go to 111. I'm actually was one of the 3 people who started 111, despite the fact it's not part of the university, but the university has been the one of the co-founders of the 111 thing. So for us, it's always about collaboration and creating opportunities to reinforce or help the ecosystem. You mentioned why in regions and why not in other regions. It's because actually in order for us to establish a venture, I'm a believer that a venture is successful when it's a win-win for the two partners. I have never seen an example of successful partnership or venture where it's a win from one side. So the city of Niagara Falls has a mayor who is also a good friend of mine, who is very entrepreneurs. He came actually to visit, and the DMZ, because of our presence in downtown Toronto, we have visitors on a weekly basis. We have 10 teams visiting internationally and locally. People will come and just wants to tour the DMZ, talk to entrepreneurs. And I can tell you, if you have anyone would like to visit one day, we'll give you a tour. There is a wall with pictures of all the important visitors that came to DMZ. 10 years ago, Prince Charles was one of the first visitors when we opened the DMZ. He's now king. He may come back as a king. We'll see. But we have a lot of foreign leaders, prime ministers, many important people will come. And sometimes when they visit and see that kind of hub, the first thing that they ask us is, how can we work together to do it? And the collaboration started in Niagara Falls because the mayor said, Niagara Falls, for those who are not familiar, it's about 2-hour drive from Toronto. It's a very big attraction for tourists, but people who are living there, the mayor said, I'm losing a lot of the youth because they want to be in Toronto. Can we create something together, an incubator for tourism and hospitality, because the region is known for that. And then we approached the government for funding because we cannot do anything without the funding, and it has been successful venture. Same thing in other regions. The presence in India started about 7 years ago. Also, the CEO of the Bombay Stock Exchange was in visit to Toronto. Usually, because of our location, when we have foreign ministers or delegations, the government of Ontario or government of Canada, they always suggest or they put this part of the program to come and visit the DMZ. So the CEO of the Bombay Stock Exchange was visiting. He was impressed. He reached out to us saying that, can we do something together, a venture together? And now, as I said, for the last 7 years, we have been in the Bombay Stock Exchange and the tower with them. And that actually is also the advantage of it, is it's a gateway for our own entrepreneurs to have a presence in India. They can go there, and it's a huge market. As you know, India is 1.4 billion people. Canada is much smaller, 40 million people. So it's a gateway for entrepreneurs to open a new market, but also for the entrepreneurs from India to come, and they see Toronto as a gateway to North America, not just to Canada. So it's a win-win situation. The last part is when it's Algeria, we are always open for collaboration. We have actually, at the present time, some discussion with some partners in Algeria about sharing our own experience. We'd be more than happy establishing a presence here. That depends on the conditions, but I never say no to Algeria.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for these excellent presentations. My name is Rida Shawki Agun. I'm an engineer and doctor in business administration. My question is for our professors and everyone, is how do you leaders, when you come to an organization, how do you do, what are the steps you use to transform the organization culture? We know that it's very difficult. We talk about the mindset, we talk about the values, but what are, if you can tell us a practical way in changing the culture of the organization or the university or the incubator? Do you have any tips for that? Thank you.
شكرا. الأساتذة الكرام لو فيه تفضل بروفيسور.
Thank you. I think this is a very good question. To induct an organization to embrace a new culture, it's a very, very difficult task. but it's not something that is not possible. We have to be very pragmatic, and things are built in progression. Means that you cannot change the mindset overnight. It will take time. Okay, so one way of doing it is in the vision, the mission of that institution, as you mentioned, they have to be aligned also with values. And the values are the most important. The values are, everybody in the institution should embrace those values and they believe in them. If they don't believe in those values, they cannot work for that institution, in fact. So how to make people believe in those values is that by putting, so there's a work on policies, work on in the strategy, in the goals of the strategy. When we say, for example, we need people, for example, in our university, so people are accountable. So which means that there is a very, very clear process for accountability. In the sense that everybody who is tasked with something, they have objectives, they have outcomes, and they have KPIs. And they need to be assessed regularly on those outcomes, the outcomes, and assessed regularly by the KPIs. And they are documented. And even if they don't do it properly in the first time, they will build on that and they will learn. And also we have one part of, an important part of setting a new mindset is that the leadership should be giving, they should be the model for those to embrace those values. So the leadership should be the first layer who should embrace and put those values in practice. So we cannot put values and then we as a leadership, we do the opposite, or we don't embrace those values. So the learning by example is very important. So if I want to empower my team and I say that I want to empower people, and if I don't do it in action, then nobody will believe in it. So I really have to empower my team. I have to give people tasks, responsibilities, and also I give them chances to grow. When for example, we do something and people, they are, let's say, if I engage a team to do a task and that task has been successful, I should be thanking and giving credit to those people in front of their colleagues. It's very important that they see that their work is valuable. So that's why we say there is a value in the work of the people. So leading by example is, I think, one of the major way to change the mindset of and the culture of the institution. And it goes up, down, not bottom up. Thank you.
This is a very important question. In fact, today, institutions, people, organizations, that don't have values, عندهمش أخلاق، ما عندهمش يعني المعاملات الطيبة والقيم. And multinationals and so on do not work with you. They don't want to be associated with you. Okay, so this is very, very important. The technical aspect for me is easy. That is the easy part. Okay, building the person بالقيم and becoming at a higher level, that is the most difficult one. MIT, in the logo of MIT, it has the mind, the analytical part of the brain, has the hand, the practical side, and then the heart. And the heart involves all of these values that we've been talking about. MIT started about 160 years ago and has been emphasizing, these things in everything that we do. It's not, things are written down, but as Dr. Rashid mentioned, we do it in everything. We do it in the classroom, in the labs, in the fields when we do sports, in the hallways, in the cafeteria or the restaurant, in everything, and you see it in everybody, okay? So it becomes an environment of that nature, and you emphasize the excellence in everything you do. المعاملات should be at the same level. The technical aspect, the same thing. So when you enter an environment like that, you start becoming like it. Okay, يعني الواحد يحب ولا ما يحبش يبدا لانه هذا the environment is designed that way. Okay, and the best way, I think, as Dr. Rashid mentioned, is by seeing other people, how they behave, how they communicate, how they relate to you, how they work with you, how they help you, and the whole environment is like that. Yeah. شكرا لكم.
طيب شكرا. إضافة بسيطة للشيء اللي قاله الزملاء، نعطيكم تجربة خاصة شخصية. أنا أعتقد أن الممارسة اليومية هي أحسن طريق لتطبيق المبادئ ونشر ثقافة جديدة في وسط الجامعة وحتى في المجتمع. إذا الليدرشيب ما عطاش المثال الأول أنسى كل شيء. فأنا كان لي الشرف ولا الحظ أني عينت مدير جامعة قسنطينة في أحلك الأزمنة اللي هي في التسعين، في 1990. كانت الجامعة في إضراب لشهرين تقريبا لأسباب عدة، من السكن تاع الأساتذة. فأول قرار خديته أن المدير الجامعة ما بقاش يتكلف بالسكن، لأن كانت السكنات تعطى ما فيها حتى مقاييس، وبالتالي الأساتذة كانوا داروا إضراب. فقلت أن مدير الجامعة ما بقاش دخلوا في السكن، مدير الجامعة عنده اهتمامات أخرى اللي تهم الجامعة، ماشي توزيع السكنات. فعملت لجنة تاع الأساتذة ولجنة تاع العمال، وقلت أنتم تعملوا المعايير، تتفقوا على معايير وتعطيوا لي الرانكينج تاع الأساتذة والعمال، وأنا إذا جات الولاية عطت سكن نعطيه الأول. وطبقته حتى على أقرب الزملاء اللي هو نائب مدير الجامعة للبحث العلمي الأستاذ محمد رمل اللي توفى العام الماضي رحمه الله، وكان إنسان رائع اللي كان قبل بالقرار. فالناس شافوا المثال، يعني بعد أسبوعين الجامعة رجعت تشتغل بعد شهرين من الإضراب. نفس الشيء تجربة بالنسبة لميزانية الزيارات في الخارج، الكونفرنس، المؤتمرات. فنفس الشيء قررت أن على مستوى المجلس الجامعة أن الميزانية تعطى لكل قسم، والقسم يعمل معايير ويعطي يوزع الميزانية حسب الأولويات. أوكي. فالطريف في القصة أن خلال اجتماع مجلس الجامعة فرؤساء الأقسام اللي كانوا 22 واحد قالوا لي يا أستاذ وإحنا كيفاش تقصدوا؟ أنا فاهم واش يقصدوا. قال إحنا رؤساء الأقسام. رؤساء الأقسام أنتم أساتذة كيما أنا. قالوا شوفوا أنا لو نمشي المؤتمر نقدم طلب للمجلس العلمي تاع القسم تاعي وفعلتها. أوكي. فأنا بودي العمل المؤسساتي يمشي على ضعفه، حتى لأن التجربة تاع المجلس العلمي في الوقت هذا كانت جديدة جدا، وفيها كل عمل بشري فيه نقص. فقط أنا أفضل تعمل المجالس العلمية عمل مؤسساتي على ضعفه خير ما يبقى الارتجال تاع الشخص المسؤول، إذا صلح ربما يصلح القرار وإذا فسد في الهلاك. فهذا هو الإضافة اللي حبيت نضيفه. شكرا.
ما عنديش كثير إضافات. الشيء الوحيد من خلال تجربة خاصة يعني في كندا، مؤسسنا أو جامعتنا، يعني أنا أول رئيس يعين لأصول غير أوروبية. يعني تاريخ الجامعة يعني في قبل 8 رؤساء كلهم يعني بيض رجال ذو أصول أوروبية. فأنا يعني الوحيد أول واحد يعني غير يعني من غير أصول عرب، غير أصول كندية. ف يعني وش قال الدكتور فريد يعني لازم تكون مثال للآخرين، يعني مش فقط تاخذ المنصب والمسؤولية وبعدين يعني ما تنفذ، خاصة أهمية الفاليوز يعني والقيم. القيم هي يعني أهم شيء، خاصة إحنا المتواجدين يعني في الغرب. يعني إذا كنت في منصب هذا كل الأعين عليك، فلازم تكون يعني مثال، ولازم تكون فيه ترانسبيرنسي. دكتور يعني يعني إذا كان في هذه الأمور تسير في جامعات أخرى يعني تكون جامعاتنا أحسن كثير. يعني شرف كبير أن نسمعنا شخصية يعني عملت هذه الأشياء اللي هي مهمة بالنسبة لها. فبالنسبة للأشياء اللي مثلا في جامعتنا وكانت فيها يعني ممكن أصعب decision عملتها في من خلال مهامي في كرئيس جامعة، هو تغيير الاسم بتاع الجامعة. أنا بدأت المحاضرة قلنا الاسم الجديد تورونتو متروبوليتان يونيفرسيتي، والاسم القديم رايرسون يونيفرسيتي. رايرسون هو شخص أو اسم شخص إيجلتون رايرسون اللي في القرن التاسع عشر يعني كان مسؤول على مهمة يعني كان مسؤول حكومي، فهو اللي بدأ المدارس الحكومية في كندا، وكان عنده فضل كبير على التعليم والعلم. لكن في نفس الوقت هو اللي خطط يعملوا مدارس للسكان الأصليين، الريزيدنشال سكولز، ما يسمى بالريزيدنشال سكولز. وهذه التجربة الريزيدنشال سكولز، السكان الأصليين يعني الهنود الحمر كانوا يأخذوا الأولاد من الصغر من عائلاتهم ويحطوهم في مدارس. معظم المدارس يعني تكون في قريبة من كنائس حتى يغسلوا لهم مخهم، ويعني معاملتهم كانت بشعة. تكلمت على الدور بتاع الجامعة، تعطي فرص للسكان الأصليين، لأن تروح يعني في مدن كثيرة في كندا تشوف المساكن عايشين حياة بائسة. فكان القرار أن نغير اسم الجامعة، وكان فيها يعني مش قرار سهل، لكن اتخذنا القرار. احنا أول جامعة جامعة كبيرة في كندا اللي غيرت الاسم. والسؤال اللي كان يعني حير الجميع، يعني حتى دفعوا ملايين الدولارات للتغيير والأمور هذه خسارة. قلنا يعني احنا من الفاليوز بتاعنا احترام الشخص مهما يكن، وخاصة احترام السكان الأصليين في كندا اللي عانوا كثير من السيستم هذا، المدارس اللي كانت موجودة. وكان بالنسبة لنا يعني رأي صائب، لكن في البداية كانت صعبة كثير. ومن الأشياء اللي أنا شخصيا يعني كنت مقتنع بها أن فيه تغيير الاسم، والآن يعني فيه ما شاء الله يعني السبورت لتغيير الاسم من الجامعة ومن خارج الجامعة، يعني حتى من الحكومة، لأن احنا في كندا مسؤولية الجامعات مع الحكومة، مش مع الحكومة الكندية، مع حكومة المقاطعة اللي هي أونتاريو. فقدمنا طلب تغيير الاسم، ولازم يعني تروح للحكومة يوافقوا عليها. فكانت آخر مرحلة في الشهر هذا، بداية الشهر هذا، في البرلمان بتاع مقاطعة أونتاريو. فدعوني هناك على أساس فيه تصويت لتغيير الاسم. كل يعني الأحزاب عملوا تصويت يعني إيجابي على هذا تغيير الاسم، وشكرونا أن يعني قالوا أن الديسيجن مش سهلة، ولكن ديسيجن يعني the right decision كما يقال. فهذا يعني من ناحية الفاليوز لازم يعني الإنسان حتى في تحديات، لكن ما تخسر الفاليوز، خاصة إذا تكلم على إدماج الجميع فإدماج الجميع مهم ومهم جدا، خاصة في مجتمع متعدد الأديان والثقافات كالمجتمع الكندي. يعني الجامعة لازم تكون مفتوحة للجميع، ولازم الكل يعني يحسوا أنهم جزء من هذا الكوميونتي.
من اهم التطبيقات عجبتني مثلا الزراعه السطحيه اللي عملتوها في جامعتكم. بدي تعطينا بعض التفاصيل، لانه انا قريت فما قال ما فهمتش هل النصف المنتوج هذا نتاع الزراعه السطحيه انه معناه يغذي 22,000 طالب. تكمله واسمه انا في اطار التسميات اللي عجبني بزاف هو مثلا the center of urban energy. كلمة urban ما جاتش هكذاك، الشيء اللي قريت معناه العالم الآن كله يتوجه نحو المدينة، النزوح هذا. هما في الجامعة سؤالي، هذا المركز the center of urban energy and the zone of clean energy, what's the difference؟ تفاصيل انا عندي كثير، يعني حضرت كثير اسئله، لكن ان شاء الله تكون لنا فرصه.
شكرا اخي الكريم. خليني نجاوب باللغه الانجليزيه اذا سمحت. يعني السؤال كان على التجربه عملناها من حوالي 10 سنوات او كذا، وكانت يعني تجربه ناجحه. الشيء اللي نحب ناكده هنا هو to trust students. يعني أنا as a president now, I always ask my team, when you have good ideas coming from students, trust them, work with them, because they can come up with some brilliant ideas. I remember in 2010, when I was Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and Science and Architecture Science, a group of students came. We have a building, one of the buildings that is in engineering. My office was there, and they came. They said, on top of the building, you have a roof. And that roof, when we designed it, was a green roof, just green roof, part of the sustainability. And they said, why? It's a waste of time. Why we transform this to be an urban garden? Term urban مع الانرجي حتى we use it for other things, urban garden. was a new concept. يعني قالوا يعني لأن part of the problem with food production is transportation, and is part of the issue of global warming in general. But they said, why we don't think about producing food in local areas, including in urban areas? And Toronto, our campus is very dense because we're in downtown Toronto. So the density, this is why, to your question about urban energy, most of our research is applied, but also to deal with issues in urban centers. And I agree with you, the majority of people in big cities or in countries like Canada are living in urban settings. في transfer كثير من rural to urban. Our universities, because of our location, because of our interest, is to do a lot of research to solve issues that are in our context. They came with the idea. We said, well, why not? We give them access to that roof. Of course, we put some safety thing to protect them, and we give them access to it. They came up with a brilliant idea. From that time to now, they produce vegetables, greens, tomato, cucumbers, and anything that. And each year, in just that one roof, they produce 5,000 kilograms of greens and vegetables. This is coming from students. Of course, we said, anything that you do, this is your labor, we'll pay you for it. So we, half of that production, we use it in our cafeteria, and we pay for it. The other half, part of what we do in our campus, we have an area of a street that is just pedestrian. So every week, We do a farmers market. You invite farmers and they sell their products, including our own students. And this is for the community. As you remember what I said, we don't have walls between us and the community. You can walk through our campus, thousands of people walk up, and actually they sell those products. So this is a way for students actually to think about an idea that is solving problem when we talk about sustainability, and also about local products. And to that's the first project. Now, every time we have a new building in the design, we are including also this concept of urban garden. We just opened a couple of years ago another building, and we have another market or another garden for it. Same thing for the urban energy. To your question about urban energy, we need to work in solving issues that are dealing. So the Center for Urban Energy is dealing with issues that we have in urban settings. For example, the use of energy, the storage of energy. Now we are encouraging electric cars. Imagine if everyone has an electric cars, and then you plug your car. Imagine in peak hours, you are going to put an extra load on the grid. So one of the solutions actually that came from the research that done in the Urban Energy Center, which is a research center to develop batteries to store energy, and then when the energy is needed in the grid, you put it back. So this is just some of the solutions to the problems in urban thing. Your question was the difference between the zone and then the Center for Urban Energy. When I explained the biomedical zone, I said we have an institute for research. Next to it, we have an innovation zone, which is the incubator. The idea, if you have a zone, if you have a center doing research, you have also to encourage the idea of taking that research to the market. So the Center for Urban Energy has the same thing. When you go to the building with the Center for Energy, you have people who are doing research, but also you have entrepreneurs that are creating new companies. So it's two entities that are separate, but they have the same objective or the same mission. One side, you do the research, you find solutions. Other side, some grad students, some PhD students, if they have brilliant idea, you encourage them to create their startup. And that's actually the concept that we are creating. We are telling our students, at the end of your journey, our university, of course, you get a degree. That's okay. But if they can have in one hand a degree and the other hand a startup, that's best for them. Not everybody will do it, but we are at least giving that option for them.
شكرا. يعني انت سالت سؤال، يعني جاتني فكره اخرى في العقل بتاعي. يعني تشوف دول، يعني في تقول يعني كيف تسميه ستدي ستيت، يعني لاحقوا واحد المرتبه وراه يطلعوا شويه هكاك، ودول اخرى راهي في ترانزيشن، يعني طالعين ولا يحبوا يطلعوا. التركيبه مختلفه. اوكي. اذا كانك في الستدي ستيت وعندك هذا المشاكل بروبلمز، يعني تقدر عندك وقت، يمكن يكون عندك وقت. اليوم راه الوقت يعني ضيق. الجامعات، مراكز بحث، يعني كلهم يشتغلوا. لكن بعض الاحيان تكون يعني شغل ازمه، فهمت؟ ففي الحاله هذه تجي التركيبه متغيره، ما هيش التركيبه العاديه. انا نعطيك مثل. في الحرب العالميه الثانيه بدات في 1939. جاء رئيس جامعه MIT ورئيس جامعه هارفارد، يعني بيننا واحد الكيلومترين ولا يعني قريب، ومشاو البريزيدنت روزفلت في ذاك الوقت رئيس امريكا. قالوا له راه كاين اليوم واحد التكنولوجيا جديده، تكنولوجيا تاع مايكروويفز والرادارز. يعني هذه التكنولوجيا تقدر تشوف في الليل، في النهار، في الثلج، في البرد، في المطر، يعني تشوف. هو غير يسمع، قال ديروا لابوراتوار في MIT وخدموا في التكنولوجيا هذه. كانت الحقيقه انجلند ولا انجلترا كانوا شويه متقدمين في الميدان هذا. جات يعني مجموعه من الناس وجابوا معهم نموذج يعني بروتوتايب صغير وجاوا الام اي تي. خدموا من 1940 سبتمبر الى ديسمبر 4 شهور في المخبر هذا. في المخبر 3500 باحث، 3500 باحث، جيبهم واحد بواحد من الشركات، من الجامعات، من مراكز البحث، كلهم اللي يسمى الاي تو زي اللي عنده حتى علاقه في المقام العالي للرادار جيبهم. 4 شهور تم المشروع هذا، داروا الرادارات هذيك، داروا التستينج. هذه عام قبل ما امريكا تدخل في الحرب العالميه الثانيه. هي اليابان يعني ضربت امريكا في 1941، عام من بعد. اوكي، فاحنا في الجزائر لما نشوف ما عندناش حرب، عندنا حروب. عندك حرب تاع الماء، الطاقه، راك تذكر تاع الطاقه، تاع المواد الغذائيه. واني سمعت اليوم عندنا الحليب والزيت، ثاني راهم ثاني حروب تاع الحليب والزيت، وزيد النقل، وزيد يعني حاجات كثيره. ففي الحاجه هذه يعني لازم يكون فن في السياسه، وفن في يعني كيف تجمع هذه القدرات في داخل البلاد خارج البلاد، كيف تجمعها بسرعه وتجيب النتائج بسرعه وتطبقها في الحين. يعني هذا نظن يعني في، لانه اذا كان نبقاو نمشوا بطريقه هذيك البطيئه ونزيدوا حتى الغدوه والشهر الجاي وهذيك، يعني ما راح نلعبوا. اوكي، لازم هذه التركيبات وهذا الفن في السياسه وفي التطبيقات يعني تكون حاجات جديده، ابتكار في كل هذه الاشياء. وشكرا لك.